Hey everyone, I wanted to talk about getting the job done. And this goes way beyond the boundaries of just your particular fears with OCD recovery and how the mindset of immediate action, crushing procrastination has been such a game changer for me on the particular aspect of building good behavioral habits, building my low frustration tolerance to a higher frustration tolerance, instilling more patience, just overall really helping change my life in many different ways. And it was very difficult. I was going to do a video, which I am going to do tomorrow, on societal taboo fears. But I was hiking today and I was thinking, how did I really change a lot of my behaviors? Did the books I've read, which I've taken really good principles from, and I don't mean the books on the reading list, I mean books like The Power of Habit, Atomic Habits, other books. I just read David Goggins' new book, Never Give Up or Never Finish. A lot of stuff like that, Tony Robbins' material, great nuggets of information in all those books. But did that actually help me change my life? Primarily, no. But I still think I took a lot of good principles, but I don't think that really pushed me over the edge. And this is just my particular view on that. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me finish my last coffee of the day at 5 o'clock. So I can get hyped up, It's one of those days. Awesome. That coffee was from last night, by the way. Yeah, that's 24 hours old. I got a serious problem, man. Okay. What did I take from the books I just read? Let's use David Goggins' book, okay? Never Finish. I believe that's the title of it. Excellent book. When I'm really into a book, I read it pretty quickly because I'm very engaged and because I've kind of trained myself to read. I'm reading this book right now, Epictetus' Discourse. I think this is a terrific book. A little bit more difficult of a read, harder to understand. David Goggins' read is more of a fun read. This one makes you think a lot more. And I get a lot of posts and stuff I talk about in my videos from books like this. Always remember, please read the books on the reading list in order first. Don't go to Discourse. Don't go to David Goggins, in my opinion, if you haven't read this book or The Myth of Self-Esteem. A lot of people do that and they go, I don't want to read it, and they go to something else. Nothing wrong with that, but you're really doing yourself a disservice. And when you're reading those books, you get a heightened sense of productivity. You get a heightened sense of motivation and inspiration, which are all key factors to starting behaviors, but they really don't last. I'm going to talk about some things that I'm not so much open with, maybe on some of the calls, because on YouTube channels, I talk a lot about this in private calls, but just because for sakes of arguments and just people misunderstanding, we don't talk about particular topics on YouTube. This is one of them, but I will talk about it. Do I think Tony Robbins has changed the world in many ways? Of course. I think he's an inspirational guy. I think he's an extremely hard worker, but I don't think going to his seminar will change your life. That doesn't mean they're not good. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement, but let me give you an example. Let's say 30,000 people go to his event in Fort Lauderdale, the big one he has every year. I think it's in South Florida. And I always say, if I followed all those people for 3 years, maybe 100 have changed their lives substantially. Did they need the seminar? Probably not. Now, does that mean that the information wasn't provided, wasn't meaningful, impactful? I'm sure it was. I know people who have gone there. I also know people who have gone there and got real hyped up on some diet program and stuff like that, and I follow them on social media and they're right back to doing their old ways. Why is that? Well, from my experience, if I was to write a book on what actually matters for changing your life, it wouldn't sell. And the reason why it wouldn't sell is it's not really a story. It's a couple sentences. And I think this is something that really took me a long time to understand. And when I started to understand this and apply it, I really realized how much of a disservice I was doing by thinking all these other things would change my life. What would that book say? It would maybe be a page. It's not a good book, right? Quick read. Couldn't charge a whole lot. So this is what the book would probably say. Hey, there's no rewiring your brain. That does happen. There's no tips or tricks or cues and all that stuff from The Power of Habit. Great stuff. Change takes boring, monotonous discipline, or you don't want to do it. I do think David Goggins explains this the best. Jordan Peterson is up there as well. I love their works. But the inspirational, quick, changing tip, tricks, instant gratification, big changes to little changes. It doesn't do it. Let me give you some ways that I instilled this in my life. Okay? Let's go over, this actually would be really cool. Let's go over my personal goals. I think this is a great way to do this. I don't really go through this a whole lot on video. So this is a binder I have for my business, but I keep my personal goals in here that I review. This is something that I was very compulsive with, but now there's no compulsiveness to it at all because I didn't do it for a while and I was going through recovery. So I just wrote these 2 days ago. So my OCD goals are 200 to 250 TikToks, 15 plus YouTube videos. Usually I do 25 or so, but I'm planning all these, most of these. I'm not obviously planning this one, but I'll plan most of them. No checking certain things like when I'm trying to be distracted. So when you work a lot, it's easy for an individual to multitask, right? You're opening an email or something, or you're doing a bunch of other stuff. We all do this. You can't avoid all of it, but being more aware of that. I'll just be very honest with you. Listening to all of Rob's opinions when me and him are talking. Rob and I have similar personality traits than I would say maybe me and Momin, or Rob and Momin. We all have, we're different individuals with different belief systems, all coming together with unconditional acceptance. But if Rob and I are very busy with one-to-ones and we're working our lives and we got things going on and we do other stuff outside of OCD recovery, even though OCD is full on, it takes a lot of our lives. We work, a lot. We work a lot, but it's worth it and we love it. And we're not complaining about that. But sometimes when Rob's trying to give me advice on something, I can be a little bit attitudey with him. And I had to realize, and Rob would say, hey, look, just sometimes think about what I'm saying to you before you might come back. It's much better than it was. I was really bad with this. And applying more compassion for myself, which still is something I think long-term has been more of a struggle with me in my life because I'm very much like that go-getter. Get it? All of these things I wrote down doesn't take books to tell me what to do. It takes, I don't want to do it, and I'm going to behaviorally act against it. There's no secret with that. That's why it doesn't sound sexy and it doesn't sell. I don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to put this in this particular part of my day so it gives me the best opportunity to do that. Those cues and those type of daily time management setups have benefits, but if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. No matter if it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. You're going to make it happen. And I make this stuff happen because I've trained myself to be very militant and like a machine in some of my behavioral actions. Some of my personal goals. Eric and I both work a lot with our business and with all the OCD stuff I do. So sometimes we've been a little bit more distant in the sense of like, we come home, we work for 15 hours, don't see each other. And sometimes I want to read, but I have to remember to balance a good, healthy relationship, asking her how her day is, and not based off how I'm feeling. I don't care about that at all. I don't care if I'm feeling in love. I just ask her, how's your day going? Walk the dogs with her. Try to read 10, 20 pages a day. This has kind of gotten away from me more so than I particularly like. So I threw this back in there. And then this is a funny one. I put Cigar Lounge twice a month and not 6 times a month, even though I went twice this weekend because I left a group and my friends bought me 4 cigars for my parting of my ways, and they've known me for a while. So that is, we all have a vice, and that's mine. I do like cigars. I like smoking cigars. I like reading, and balance is very important in my life. You get a lot of people, why would you do that to yourself? That's so bad for you. You're going to die. You're going to die too, my friend. And I'd rather die younger, and enjoy aspects of my life and be balanced in certain ways, but enjoy good foods than just live my life in pure safety. Just something to think about. And a lot about working on quality. When you get really busy in your life, it's very easy. You got kids. I don't have kids, but with my business, my career, and all the OCD coaching and the hiking, sometimes quality of stuff can slip away. Just have to, okay, how's my quality been? And try to redirect your focus in a non-compulsive way, etc. Everything I wrote down here, again, does not take any sort of rocket science. It doesn't take a tip or a trick. It takes immediate action to do the things I want to do. Now you got a good idea of that. Let's bring this over into an exposure hierarchy. I think this will be really important to talk about because a lot of people ask me, do I need an exposure hierarchy to get my stuff done? Let's go through some of the ones where exposure hierarchies from immediate action matter the most. But before I go into that, everyone has exposures that they're putting off. You have to really take a hard think about that. Is it worth the safety and the compulsiveness and the suffering? Or is it worth it to jump into the fire because you're going to suffer anyway? Just open up with that. Okay, so let's go into the ones where exposures matter a lot. So we got contamination OCD, okay, harm and POCD, okay, magical thinking, but there's a lot of rituals. Those are the ones that probably require the most amount of outward exposures. Least amount of outward exposures, existential, sensory motor, self-harm, a lot more theoretical stuff, simulations, fear of being already dead in that, again, that existential realm. You can watch a documentary or two, Truman Show, Matrix, but that runs its course. It all comes down to the fear of loss of connection, the fear of being the only one alive, the fear of me being a robot, the fear of feeling like a disconnected robot to other people. Sensory motor, basically no exposures. It's little tiny piece, if at all, for most people. So contamination, real quick, does a hierarchy matter? It can. But I've also, health OCD too is in the ones that require a lot. And I'm probably missing things because I'm going on the fly right now. But you will really have to take your exposures quite seriously and really jump into the fire with these. I've seen people do incredible things. There was a girl I was working with. She'll probably watch this video. We'll see. She came in from Texas, had one of the worst cases of health OCD I've ever seen. She's been in the hospital 50, 60 times in 4 months, dozens of scans. After our first call, she never went back. She hadn't gone more than 3 days without going to an emergency room or hospital. She jumped in. The progress she made in 6 to 8 months was outstanding. She's not any different from anyone. She just said, screw it. Fuck this. I'm going to go in and feel like dog shit. And that's really, really important to remember that. Contamination OCD, you're not going to go around smacking your hand there. You could do that, but, like if you have someone who's washing their hands, there's some people singularly wash their hands for a long time and they do it 250 times a day. Some people will wash their hands 30 times a day, but as they wash their hands for a set, they'll wash it 5 times. So even though they go to the sink 30 times every half hour, they're spending 15 minutes there and they're washing their hands 150 times a day. Can that person bring that down to 2 times a day overnight? They could, but they'll probably have a shitload of panic attacks. And I'm very, very honest with them. I think on social media right now, there's a lot of stuff based around, they don't talk about the realities of cutting compulsions. I've been very adamant about this when I'm speaking with the individuals I'm coaching and the webinar services. Treat it like a drug addiction. It's got to go, and you're going to feel just as bad as if you're withdrawing from hard drugs, which we work with many people, working with other rehab facilities, or maybe they're in AA or NA or in a support group or religious group, and they come in because a lot of their addictions overlap with their OCD. And, I've had people say stuff to me like, look, I was smoking heroin, and cutting my venting compulsion was just as hard, and the physical symptoms were just as bad. So that goes to show you something. So give yourself some credit. That's where the self-compassion is key. Harm OCD and POCD, it's going to take time. You can jump into your largest exposures right away, making sure you're not avoiding any movies, making sure you're not avoiding any sharp objects. I get it, taking your time at your own pace, but don't take 4 or 5 years, and you can do whatever you want, but just be honest about that. Hearing that really makes people uncomfortable because they want to say, I want to do it at my own pace. We say this with medication withdrawal, where people go, you know what? I'm going to withdraw from this medication at the slowest possible rate in 5 years. That's no need for that. I can't advise on medication. Always speak to your doctor. But 5 years, usually fear of brain damage or fear of relapsing. So something to think about. We see that stuff all the time. So the most important thing about this is when I do a behavior, and I'm a human, I slip up. Slipped up a little bit, sleeping in a little bit later last couple of weeks. When I say later, I mean like 5:30 or 6. It's because I just was dead tired. I was working really late, but I'm so much better allowing myself to do that. But then I say, hey, I'm going to get back on the horse a little bit. There's much more balance to that. Where in the beginning, I was like, should I do this? Should I do that? Blah, blah, blah. But if I want to make a change in my life, I act against it immediately. This is a good example. It's 5 o'clock. I have a one-to-one here in a couple hours with New Zealand, I believe, so I have to do those at night. It's a Sunday. It's a holiday. Tomorrow's Labor Day in America. I went for a hike this morning, went to the balloon fair. I was there at 7 o'clock in the morning, went food shopping, went and read. And I wasn't really in the mood to do my TikToks and make my YouTube videos. And I said, no, you do them because you wrote them down your list. It's not about the conditional side of it. It's just about that's what I want to do to build my frustration tolerance. So just remember, there's some great books out there, and I've read many of them. A lot of the habit books. We get asked all the time in one-on-ones about these. Remember, read the books on the reading list first with our recommendation, but it's important to read other books as well. But remember, you don't need anything fancy to do an exposure or change of behavior. You don't have to hide things. You don't have to, set yourself up for the best possible outcome. Sure, that stuff is important, but it's not 100% necessary as a lot of these books make it out to be. Immediate action crushes procrastination day in, day out. Boring, not sexy, monotonous, repeatable, just blah. Brushing your teeth and flossing, blah. Has to be done. Unless you want gingivitis and your teeth to rot out. Then you'll look like Moment. Moment hates the dentist. He really did in the past, so he's going to hate me for bringing that up. But we joke around too, because you got to have fun. If you don't have fun and joke around and poke fun at yourself, wow. It could be a tough disorder on top of what it already is. You could make fun of me. I was in the mental hospital based on my saliva. I went to a mental hospital because of the saliva in my mouth. That's pretty funny. It's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time, but I could still joke about it even in the beginning. So sorry to get off topic there, but it is, a lot of people, I understand it's a very morbid disorder and it is important to joke about this stuff. And you can make your exposures fun, shame attacking exercises and stuff like that. If you need help setting up this stuff, please reach out to us. Phil@OCDrecovery.com. We will get back to you in timely fashion. Please comment down below. I go through and answer as many stuff as I can. And I'll hopefully see you soon on a call or a webinar. Have a good one, everyone.